But in the name of tearing it all down for some utopia where there is no free thought and therefore no division and all oppressors and traditions are overthrown, what is left? What is their perfect world? Joining us now is Phoebe Nir. She's a San Francisco-based filmmaker, producer, and writer who's had some pretty interesting brushes with the cult of climate change. Her film Eco Village makes its U.S. debut October 11th with a lot of a fanfare. Phoebe, welcome to the program.
Thanks so much, Janelle. Happy to be here.
I'm enthused about hearing your take on this because I think you have a more nuanced view, especially about how people like this become who they are. Your reaction to Greta Thunberg recently and how she's been leading these people to disrupt everyday lives in the pursuit of something that just seems so remote.
Yeah, it's really interesting. She came to prominence as a child and kind of became this avatar and this sort of kind of Joan of Arc symbol for the climate movement. And I think the double-edged sword of that is you get to kind of uphold childhood as this paragon of innocence, and there's sort of a moral piece of that. But then I think you spoke to it, the kind of the lack of nuance, the sort of adolescent quality. And I think for me, I kind of find it heartbreaking because I don't think that the climate movement in general, or even just a visceral sense that we all share that, the environment is something worth protecting, that I don't think they have nothing to say. But I think that when it's like, you have to hear what I'm going to say or else I'm going to lie in the street so that you can't get to the hospital or the airport or something, it just shuts down conversation. And I think it really is this very adolescent style of discourse, which is damaging our society.
Well, your film touches on some of these themes, but I wanted to ask you in the context of this kind of everyday news discussion, what is the siren call that is environmentalism to young people? What is it about environmentalism that causes it, that makes it such a cult?
Yeah, I think we have a lot of, we tend to idealize things that we don't actually have a lot of experience with. And I think, when I was sort of more, I would say, in the kind of hippie activist space and on college campuses was about 10 years ago, whereas young people today, I think it's probably even more extreme. They live kind of within the parameters of their phone. And so I think, it's maybe simplistic, but if you talk to somebody who grew up on a farm, I think they're way less likely to idealize nature. Somebody who's in a maybe third world country who doesn't have access to heating and air conditioning and cooling. I think that if you're a young person growing up in America and you feel disconnected and there's something that you're yearning for or seeking, and there's something visceral and grounding about environmental activism.
Oh, that's an interesting take. I never thought of it that way, but it seems to explain that desire they have. There's such a like a passion underneath their pursuit of this green utopia. It makes sense that it's more of a desire for something that they themselves lack.
Yeah, I would be interested in seeing, if you broke down who's hanging out with Greta, how many of them grew up in the city versus grew up closer to nature. I don't know the answer to that, but I do think that there's something that you're prone to idealize that which you don't have as much experience with. Just like people that I know who grew up in the country are like, oh my God, I'm going to move to New York City. You know what I mean? And you think it's going to be perfect. Right.
No, that's a very familiar, behavioral pattern you see in both of these categories. But with Greta and the people around her, there's also this strange marriage of ideologies. There's this anti-Semitic, pro-Palestine movement that has somehow synchronized with this eco-utopia terrorism. Why are those two groups so tied right now? What do they see in each other?
For all our viewers asking where One America News is heading in the future, we would like to introduce you to OAN Live. OAN Live is the best way to stay up to date on all of the hard-hitting, straight-shooting, national and international headlines. And the best part is, OAN Live is only $4.99 per month. All the credible, honest, unbiased reporting One America News offers at a fraction of the cost of cable. Just go to OANN.com to easily sign up for OAN Live and stay informed.